Had you ever addressed the name Jonathan Vilma for D coordinator?
I've not. Um, and I'm against it because he hasn't coached. He hasn't coached at this level. And I mean, is he incredibly intelligent? Yeah, like he's in Iron Arrow and, graduated like summa cum laude in 3 years and was, if he wasn't valedictorian of his high school at Coral Gables, he was close to it. I mean, and I didn't have a class with him, but I had friends who had class with him because I believe that we were the same year, 2000, we were freshmen, or he was a year behind me. So, we're crossed over, and everything. But, from everybody around, he's a studious person, so I'm not going to say that he doesn't have the, mental capacity to do this job, but like, he's not done this job. And that's where I just need somebody who has, I see, that there's been more talk of the guy from Houston that you brought up last week. There's some other names that are getting bandied about for defensive coordinator. Clint Hurt from the NFL, Miami Hurricane alum, Glenn Schumann from Georgia. Another one, I forget who the other name is, but, like guys who have done this before. And for me, when there's a cornerbacks coach, I forget his name now, but he was on the Oregon staff and he thought like Miami might bring him down. That was a chatter or a thing that was asked like last week, but he got hired at Colorado this past week. A very good recruiter, things like that. People like, oh, the sky's falling. And I was like, hey man, to be a Travaris Robinson, right? To be a whomever, right? You got to start somewhere. And I think that DeMarcus Van Dyke can be at the beginning of that kind of a path as a cornerbacks coach. So at that position, leave it like it is, give him the experience and build everything else around him to help grow him into being one of those ace guys. I mean, Jawan Sider had to start somewhere. Now you think he's unassailable. This running backs coach, he's this ace recruiter, and but he had to get an opportunity. And I think that it's time. I think it's set up right now, potentially for us to give DVD that opportunity. It's different, however, and this goes back to the point. It's different as a position coach, and you've already done it for a year, versus a defensive coordinator, and you've never done it. That's where, to me, I love John Vilma. He's a Hurricane just like I am and everything. I mean, I know people can say, well, he's more of a Hurricane because he played sports. Fine, more of a Hurricane than me. Whatever. But I'm going to go with no.
Yeah, it requires the most obvious analysis is it requires not just the expertise of that particular position, but how the three levels coordinate with each other and need to work together, which, of course, I'm sure Jonathan Vilma has an understanding of that, but to be able to call it on the fly and to do it at a high level may be a bit of a stretch right now for him. I am kind of been a champion of the offensive lineman for maybe I'm just have an underdog type of mentality that I get annoyed during game broadcasts. Like I think this was just during the Monday night game last night. They're going on and on about the Steelers offensive line, how well it was playing all night. I rarely heard a name though. And I think, these guys are just nameless, underappreciated, underpublicized. Mario Cristobal comes in as an offensive line guy. There was something you stated, Cam, a couple of weeks ago that I'm asking for a broader explanation of a possible concern that he's an offensive line guy. It's arguably the most important position unit on the field that requires the most chemistry. So is there a concern that he being an offensive line guy and running a particular offense and you being a guy who has stated on here several times, hey, we're the U, I want it fast and I want it furious and I want playmakers in space and let's go, that he may hold back, that type of style?
I mean, it's going to be a power spread. It's going to be more than like, the super up tempo. But I think that you're still going to put playmakers in space, and you're going to try to scheme ways to do that in the run game in a different way than, not that I want, but like my perfect preferred style. But that's not to say that it won't be effective. So it will be different. But if it works, it works. Like they just had, Oregon, under Brian McClendon, who now is 2-0 as an interim head coach. Just had a running back run for almost 200 in the bowl game. Like if you're doing that and that creates space for the passing game and things like that, like you can still have the elements of spread and the elements of tempo in your offense. It might not be as extreme as I would prefer on the spread and the tempo side. But I don't think it's going to hold it back. I think it's just going to be a different version. It's more than one way to skin a cat, kind of a thing. So I think that we can be really effective. I think you can still be dynamic. I think you can still scheme, explosive plays and things like that. And that's the thing, with these athletes, like you got to get them in space, or at least either in space or at least one-on-ones. Because at some point you have to believe my guy can win the one-on-one. Now, we've seen from Miami over time, they don't always win. They lose a lot of the one-on-ones. Think back to that Orange Bowl against Wisconsin when they caught literally every single contested catch. Think back to that bowl game, what was it, last year against Oklahoma State, where the guy who had 2 catches all year ended up with 8 catches and 3 tutties in that game. And a couple of them were Moss's over guys. You know what I mean? But one-on-one, you got to believe that you're going to make that guy miss and go, and that's where you can still have that even at a slightly slower tempo than what I would perfectly in my brain want to see, but it can still be effective.
Do you keep guessing on this C? It is certainly not for Clemson. Do you have a guess? Do you know the C?
I do know the C.
Okay. Shamar Stewart. People are asking about Shamar Stewart. You've certainly outlined.
Yes, I want him to be on the team. I want him to be in this recruiting class. He's 6'6", 270, or 272, I believe. He's a perfect size for a 3-4 defensive end. He's probably a cheeseburger away from a defensive tackle in a 4-3. But either way, that's, again, I said it last year with the Palmetto 5. I need at least 2 of those guys, if not more. I need, from the 5 elite defensive linemen in South Florida this cycle, Miami has gone 1 for 4. So the only remaining one is Shamar. So to hit the 2, which needs to be par minimum, you get Shamar. And he's a top 10 player in America, and he's massive, and he, come on. But yeah, everybody wants him in this class. I believe that Miami is on track to get his last official visit the weekend before signing day. So, we've seen things happen there. I know y'all are tired of it, but I mean, whatever. I worked at Miramar High School for 11 years. You know that I know Tracy Howard and his family personally, and that boy was going to Florida. 100%. That boy was going to Florida. And then he took this visit the last weekend to Miami, and he came back to the schoolhouse, and there were, those two dead period days, Monday, Tuesday, before signing on Wednesday. And every time I passed him, it was just different. You know what I'm saying? He was just like, hey, what's up, Tracy? Oh, hey, what's up, coach? It had a different energy. And I was just like, you know what? I don't know what happened, but something happened that last week. I think he's going to Miami. And people were mad at me, boy. Woo, boy, they were mad at me. But I was just like, something, say, and in the reverse way, Brian Edwards was committed to Miami, 6'4" cornerback safety from Miramar, also, and like he and I were cool. His girlfriend in high school was in the band, so I would always see him coming down by my hallway and going through the hallway to the back towards where the band room was, walking this little shorty over there and everything. So, and like me and Tall Jit were cool, man, cool. So he, dapped me up. I see him like all the time and like whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to this visit to Florida, but I just said I will, I'm being a man of my word, right? I told one of the coaches I was going to go up there. I'm still going to Miami, coach. Whatever. So I saw him on Monday, and the student parking lot is at Miramar. Like, you would have to walk past my classroom to get to. If you weren't going to the main building, you were going to any other part of the school, right? And you're coming through, you had to pass by my room. And so outside, we would have to stand at our doors, before. So bell rings, stand outside, as everybody's passing everything. And I saw him coming in. He's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going, man?" He's like, "Hey, Brian, what's up, man?" And he kind of looked at me and kind of kept moving. I was like, "Oh, it's like that?" Okay. So I say all that to say that I've seen in 2 instances personally of that last weekend visit doing something special. And if you have any hope with Shamar Stewart, you need that juice again that weekend before signing day this year.
This guy takes a question. He eventually answers the question and weaves it within a story that it's pretty masterful. I don't do that. I just answer the question.
I mean, I can do that. I can be dry and just answer questions like a robot.
No, that's a compliment. That's a huge compliment. I'm just saying I don't have that ability unless it really resonates with me. And you could probably answer every question like that if you so chose to do it.